Before New York had Wall Street, before London had the city, there was Amsterdam, a patch of land wrestled from the sea that quietly invented the system running the modern world. Stocks, banks, insurance, speculation, even the first financial crash. All of it began in a city built below sea level. Welcome to its financial history too, where money, power, and history collide. And nothing is ever as simple as it looks. 400 years ago, Amsterdam was an anomaly, a republic in a world ruled by kings. It had no empire, no gold mines, no vast armies. What it had instead was something more powerful: trust. The Dutch were a nation of merchants and sailors. They didn't conquer land, they conquered distance. They dug canals, mapped the oceans, and turned trade itself into an industry. Every ship that left Amsterdam carried more than cargo. It carried contracts, insurance policies, and letters of credit. Promises written on paper that held the same weight as gold. That's where capitalism began, not as an ideology, but as a practical solution to a simple question. How do you fund an adventure too risky for any one person to afford? In 1602, a group of Dutch merchants answered that question by creating something revolutionary: the Verenigd Oostindische Company, the Dutch East India Company, the world's first joint stock corporation. Before it, voyages were private gambles. Investors pooled money for a single ship and a single trip. If it returned, they got rich. If it sank, they lost everything. The Dutch East India Company changed all that. It created permanent capital. Shares could be bought and sold. Ownership became liquid. For the first time in history, wealth could move without you moving at all. Trade became an investment. And capitalism had found its vessel. The company raised enormous sums, the equivalent of billions today, and built a commercial empire spanning Africa to Japan. But its greatest creation wasn't its empire, it was the market that formed around it. Those shares began to trade every day on the Amsterdam exchange. Prices rose and fell with rumor, profit, and fear. It was chaos. It was innovation. It was the birth of the stock market. The Dutch didn't call it capitalism. They just called it commerce. But the logic was already there. Abstract ownership, transferable value, and the constant dance between greed and trust. While kings raised taxes to fund wars, Dutch merchants raised capital to fund voyages. Taxes relied on obedience. Capital relied on belief. And belief, as the Dutch learned, could travel farther than any army. By the 17th century, Amsterdam had become the richest city on earth. Its ports overflowed with ships and its warehouses with spices, silver. But the real treasure was invisible: numbers and ledgers, written in ink. Trade was now powered by credit, not coins. And to manage that, Amsterdam built something new. The Bank of Amsterdam, founded in 1609, the world's first true central bank. Europe's currencies were a mess, clipped, forged, and unreliable. The bank fixed that by creating a single, trusted unit of account. Deposit your coins, get reliable bank money, credit that everyone trusted more than gold itself. Confidence had become currency, and that confidence scaled global trade like never before. The Dutch also learned to trade risk. They invented insurance, futures contracts, and even options. Speculation became a profession and an addiction. In the taverns of Amsterdam, traders discovered they could profit not from goods, but from the movement of prices. For the first time, people got rich or ruined on pure volatility. That's how the first great financial bubble was born: tulip mania. Tulips became symbols of status, then instruments of speculation. Contracts for flowers that hadn't even bloomed sold for fortunes. Until one day, someone didn't buy and the market collapsed. Fortunes vanished overnight. The city that had invented capitalism had now invented its first crash. But even in failure, there was progress. The Dutch didn't ban speculation. They studied it. They learned that markets run on emotion, not math. And that emotion, like the seas surrounding their city, can never be fully controlled. Out of that chaos came a new idea, that capitalism isn't a perfect machine. It is a self-correcting organism. One that learns from failure, adapts, and evolves. Amsterdam had created more than institutions. It had created a mindset that commerce could replace conquest and trust could replace gold. The merchants didn't mean to change the world, they just wanted safer trade. But in seeking security, they unlocked infinite risk. And the world has been living in that system ever since. By the late 1600s, Amsterdam wasn't just Europe's richest city, it was its banker. Kings who once mocked the Dutch for being shopkeepers now borrowed from them. Spain financed wars with Dutch credit. Even England learned from their system and then scaled it. In 1694, the English crown created the Bank of England, copying Amsterdam's model almost line by line. From that imitation grew a new empire, one powered not by conquest, but by credit. And that's the cycle capitalism has followed ever since. Innovation, expansion, speculation, stagnation. Every city, Amsterdam, London, New York, has played its part. Each thinks it's smarter than the last. Each learns it isn't, because capitalism isn't about money, it's about belief. Belief that paper has value, that tomorrow will be richer than today, that risk can be managed and growth can be endless. The Dutch built the first version of that belief, and every financial center since has lived inside their blueprint. Today, we face the same tides they did, markets running on speculation, debt rising like water, and currencies built on faith alone. The tools are new, but the story is ancient. The Dutch always knew the sea could never be conquered, only managed. And finance, they learned, was the same. Because when the tide rises high enough, even the strongest walls eventually break. Capitalism was never born in a palace. It was built in the mud, by people who refused to drown. A system born of necessity, powered by belief and sustained by trust in paper. It made the modern world possible. But every empire built on trust faces the same question.